Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about building up support musculature on the bench press for those of us who are not genetically and structurally blessed at the bench press. Now, a lot of people say, Jason, you got a big rib cage, you've got a big chest. What do you mean? Well, I have very long arms. I have long arms relative to my height, long arms relative to the rest of my structure. I'm good at deadlifting. I'm not particularly good at bench pressing. And for me, once I got past a 300-pound bench, I have had to fight for every single pound. And a lot of you guys out there can relate to that. You know, like some guys laugh, well, I don't want to take deadlift advice from you because you've gone like a year without deadlifting and walk in and almost PR. Yeah, pretty much. Because as long as I get strong and get built up in certain ways, my deadlift goes up. But I suck at the bench press. I'm just not built for it the same way that I am the deadlift. And a lot of guys out there can relate. So what can we do about it? Well, normally a lot of guys out there understand that the pecs are the primary mover in the bench press. But what happens for those of us who don't have a great leverage advantage, we have long arms, particularly long forearms. We just have to move the weight a longer distance. There's no way you're going to arch your way around that. And in fact, sometimes if you try to bench really, really wide when you have really long arms, it ends up just hurting your shoulders. Okay, so for those of us who don't have the best leverages, the best thing we can do is build up, number one, our triceps, right? Because we have such a long range of motion with the arms, triceps tend to help tremendously. They tend to help tremendously. Now notice the extensions I'm doing here are rolling extensions. You guys also see me do JM presses. And everything in this video are just 4 different supplemental lifts from one of my workouts. It's the stuff I did on the back end. After my speed benching, close grip pressing, even my JM presses. This is all the extra supplemental work that I did for all the various support musculature. And this stuff is important because realistically, if you got longer arms, you're going to have to build up a lot of muscle, right? You're just going to have to get real thick through your entire upper body. But more importantly, there's certain muscles that are going to benefit you more than others. And we're going to step away from discussing the pecs. So if you guys notice, I'm focusing a lot on upper back, kind of my shoulders and really the upper back part of that, triceps, biceps. So let's really break down these different muscles and kind of why we're doing them. You guys will see me doing inverted rows with a wide grip. High up on my chest, you'll see me doing these kind of semi-cheating, almost a snatch grip high pull, but it's really just a wide grip upright row. See me doing bicep curls, and you'll see me doing rolling tricep extensions. So what am I doing with those rolling tricep extensions? Well, I'm doing an exercise that really focuses on the medial head and the lateral head of the tricep. Why? Long head doesn't really contribute to the bench. The long head is something bodybuilders build up to look good. It's also called the lazy head. It's not going to particularly help your bench press. And I know for me, periods of time when I spent a lot of time working on the long head, my bench didn't go up at all. And as soon as I focus on those other heads, the head's down near the elbow, right? The lateral and the medial. The lateral is the one on the outside of the arm, and the medial is the one on the inside towards your torso, right? The one that touches your ribs. Those are the heads that really contribute to your bench press a lot, not just the lockout, right? They're not just the lockout, they help at the bottom. And if you notice when I do these rolling extensions, that's what gets work. There's just a little bit of long head, but we're really using that just to get a little inertia going, right? So that we take stress off the tendon and we don't get tendinitis. Because if you just do these sort of exercises straight down to your face, it tends to put stress on the tendon. It makes it rub against the bone. You can get tendinitis. Something like this lets you focus on those heads without doing that. And so again, it removes part of the tendinitis component to trying to do it completely single joint. But it works very well. And this is for me a secondary tricep exercise because I do a lot of JM presses these days. But it works very, very well, and it helps do that. Helps do that a lot. Why am I doing the inverted rows? Well, in my case, because I don't need the lower back involvement, I have other low back exercises. I don't really need to do standing rows or pendlay rows. Right? I have so much other low back training that I don't get a benefit from that. So I can really focus on what's going to help my bench press the most when I'm doing my middle and upper back work. And I try to pick a variation that really focuses more on the upper back. I have a lot of lat. I don't have any trouble building lats. I've done tons of pull-ups and chin-ups and everything else. At one time I was doing like 100 chin-ups a day. Didn't help my bench. My lats don't help my bench. My lats don't help most people's bench. I know tons of guys who are great at pull-ups and chin-ups who still are weak at all their barbell lifts. You've got to work the upper back. What does that mean? Rear delts, mid traps, low traps, upper traps, rhomboids. All right, all those muscles. The things outside of the lats. All the other muscles of the back that aren't just the lats. And the lats help to some extent too. But when you take a wider grip on any form of row, what happens? We tend to work these a little bit better, particularly if the elbows tend to stay flared out a little bit. Same thing if we go a little higher up on our chest. Right, when we're doing rowing, the further we row down the chest, the more lat we get involved in it. The more lat we get involved. And as we go wider grip, we tend to go higher up on the chest anyway. So it's just like with your bench press. When you look at a lot of things you do with it, where you lower the bar affects the amount of flare and everything. And so when you're higher up on the chest, especially with a wider grip, you tend to flare out more, and it tends to work more rear delt and that whole upper back region. Well, that upper back region is where you get your stability on the bench. That helps you set up tighter on the raw bench press. And you'll see a lot of equipped bench pressers talk about the lats. Why? Because they use the lats to pull the bar into their chest against the shirt. Right? Because you have to compress that weight into the shirt. And they have better control if they can pull and row that weight to their chest and pull against that shirt, even if it's a heavy weight. It helps them compress the shirt better, and they're able to use it better to get a better impact from the shirt itself. Okay, and that helps them a lot. But when you're not using a bench press shirt and you're going raw, the upper back plays a better role. It keeps you tight. It helps keep you tight. Helps keep you stable. It gives you a stable shelf to press against, to dig into the bench as you press yourself away from the bar, which is what you do on a raw bench press. Right? What you see the bar doing is moving away from your body, but a good bench presser learns to press themselves away from the bar and into the bench. All right, so it helps with that. The same thing with these wide grip upright rows. Builds the entire shoulder girdle up. All three heads of the delt, side delt, rear delt, obviously, upper traps. That really is a lot of the upper back also. Okay, and this is if you do it with a wide grip and you don't go ultra high, it's safe on the shoulders. So it will build up your entire shoulder girdle. What does that do? It gives you a better, stable platform to bench from. It helps protect your entire shoulder structure by giving you more muscle to balance on the opposing side from the bench press. What's the problem we have, particularly for longer arm guys? We hurt our shoulders easy on the bench. We get inflammation easy. We get injuries easy. We need that support musculature. Okay, we need that support musculature as stabilizers. We need it as a platform to press against. We need it to stabilize that shoulder joint. What else? Then you see me doing the curls. Why curls? Biceps and brachialis. Let's talk about that a little bit on the bench. Probably not a big deal if you're built to bench. If you're just genetically good at the bench press, the biceps may not matter that much. But when people talk about dynamic stabilizers on the bench press, like you'll see guys who will say, oh yeah, dumbbells work more stabilizers, so they're better. Well, which stabilizer? Well, the biceps. Which is kind of ironic because no one's dumbbell chest pressing to build their biceps, even though that's what they're claiming. Because they're saying, oh, it works the stabilizers better. What, the rear delts and the biceps? That's the stabilizers they're talking about. They just don't realize that's what they're talking about. Well, it's probably better to just build your biceps up than to worry about using them as a stabilizer. All right, it creates more stability on the bench. And more importantly, the activation goes higher and higher the wider you go on the bench. Again, an issue for long arm benchers. Okay, this creates more stability for us. Furthermore, you can compress. If you build up the bicep brachialis, radial brachialis, that can compress against the joint and create a small spring-like effect at the bottom of your bench press. So that bigger arm might help you squeeze out, and maybe in a best case, 5 more pounds on your max bench, just because you can kind of compress your arm and create a small spring-like effect because your bicep gets compressed up against your forearm and against the muscles of the forearm. All right, as silly as that sounds, it gives you a minor advantage out of the bottom of the bench, the hardest part. Also, biceps can be a weak link in all the rowing and stuff you're doing for your upper back. And so if you build them up, they have better work capacity because you've done a bunch of rep work for your biceps. They tend to not become a weak link when you're doing all your rowing, so it helps you build the upper back to give you better stability. So these things all feed into each other, and they're just useful things that you can do to build up your upper body musculature to improve your bench press. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.